Hello and welcome to Furiosa movie update number 3. In this video, I'll be talking about Mack's Interceptor spotted on the set of Furiosa, pictures from the set at Kurnell in New South Wales, characters from Fury Road that might return, and finally, we'll take a look at some pictures of vehicles spotted in the wild and some potentially really interesting vehicles that might show up in the film. So, let's get to it. Ever since Furiosa was announced, a lot of people were asking if Max is gonna show up in this film, and for the longest time, we just did not have the answer. That is until now. On June 19th, a picture of Max's Interceptor was taken on the set of Furiosa at Kurnell in New South Wales. So I guess this answers the question, Max is gonna show up in the film after all. However, it's not clear how big his cameo is gonna be. Tom Hardy hasn't said a word about his involvement in this at all. However, his stunt double, Jacob Tamori, who obviously, he did stunts as Max in Fury Road, he showed up at the Mad Max 2 museum in Silverton about 3 weeks ago. That was back when they were still filming in Broken Hill. So, is it possible that Max will be played by Hardy's stunt double instead, and maybe we won't even get to see Max's face at all? I don't know, time will tell. What's interesting is that Jacob was not the only actor from Fury Road that visited the Mad Max 2 museum just recently. Ben Smith-Peterson, who did the stunts as the Doof Warrior, showed up at the museum as well, along with Angus Sampson, who played the organic mechanic, and he visited that place twice. So I think it's safe to say that we're not only gonna see Max, but also the organic mechanic, and maybe even Koma the Doof Warrior in this film. Now, going back to the picture of the Interceptor, it's definitely the same car that we saw in Fury Road. Yeah, the same one without the rear spoiler, with a busted rear tire. But this time it looks a little bit cleaner, and it seems like the tank is shifted to the center. But then again, that just might be the camera's perspective playing a trick on us, not sure. However, the car is there, and it's gonna show up in the film. Unless George Miller is trolling us, and he just parked it there so that we can talk about it. But you know what, I'm pretty certain it's gonna be in the film. And I'm even more certain that this time around, they're not gonna blow it up. Because, look, this is a prequel, the car has to show up in Fury Road, so it looks like finally this one's gonna catch a break after all the trashing it's been through. Now, this is not the only picture from the filming set at Kurnell that recently showed up, so let's have a look at some more. On June 17th, a few more pictures from the set were posted on the Leader's website, and it has to be mentioned that Kurnell is the same place where they built the massive crashed 747 for Beyond Thunderdome 38 years ago. But now they're back, and they've built something different. So what we're seeing here is part of Furiosa's practical set that will be filled in with CGI, and obviously it's a massive gate. But the real question is, where does it lead to? And it's kind of difficult to answer that question. Obviously we got two places to pick from. It could be either the gate to Gastown or the Bullet Farm. And personally, I'm leaning towards Gastown because simply that gate was shown a few times before in the concept art for Fury Road, for example, and in the tie-in comic books, and even in the non-canon 2015 Mad Max game. But on the other hand, it could be the gate to the Bullet Farm because that place is supposed to be built in an abandoned lead mine. And in the picture, you'll see to the left that there's something that looks like caves built into the side of the rock. So I think it could be either of those places really, so you can take your pick. There's a few other interesting things in those pictures, so let's have a look at those. In the gate you can see the 1977 Mercury Cougar that I mentioned in my previous video. It looks like it's been through some stuff, it looks really rough, and it seems to have a 50 cal mounted on the back. And from a different angle, we can see Furiosa's chrome Kenworth exiting the gate, and we can clearly see that it's hauling two chrome tankers. And that looks, not gonna lie, that looks pretty awesome. And in another picture, we can see Furiosa's rig that's parked inside of a tent. And some people got confused thinking that they're looking at the People Eater's limo because the bumpers and the grille look really similar. But rest assured, that is not the People Eater's limo, it's Furiosa's chrome Kenworth. Actually, that raises a lot of questions in itself, like why do both grills look almost exactly the same? Did the People Eater take that front from Furiosa's rig and put it on his own? Hopefully we'll get answers to those questions one day. In the same picture, we see some bikers that are in their costumes, and make no mistake, those are definitely rock riders that we've seen in Fury Road. There's quite a bit of them, but there's one among them that does not belong. This one. Who is this guy? He's not on a dirt bike, not even on a trials bike. He's dressed completely different, sporting a black coat, and he definitely has long hair, and maybe he's wearing a bandana. You know what? This will be a long shot, but I think we might be looking at young Immortan Joe, simply because he kind of looks like that in the prequel comic books. He was a biker with a bandana and long hair, so maybe that's what we're seeing here? Who knows? Then again, the rider kind of looks like David Collins from the profile, and he was actually seen practicing his motorbike skills in the same place about a month ago. Could that be him? Who knows? Feel free to comment if you think you know. The article itself also mentions that they plan to complete filming in October, which is also in line with what CJ Bloomfield mentioned on his Instagram, that he's legally obliged to keep his appearance until mid-September. So I guess we got a few months worth of updates ahead of us until we figure the whole thing out and there's no point in watching the film anymore. Having said that, it seems that filming in Broken Hill had wrapped after just 5 weeks. CJ Bloomfield, Matthews Paz, and David Collins even made some farewell Instagram stories about that. And then CJ Bloomfield mentioned that he's gonna return to film in Sydney in about a week or two. So they're gonna continue filming, but it's gonna be somewhere else. Now, let's take a look at vehicles that were spotted most recently. First of all, we got a new set of pictures of Furiosa's rig. It's covered up with tarp, and we can see that they took off a few bits for transport, namely the tire guards and the stacks. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot more to see here beyond what we already know. I mean, it's still a huge rig based on a Kenworth C500 that I talked about in my previous update video. So if you're looking for a detailed breakdown of this rig, just make sure to watch that one. But to give you a little bit more info, I recently got in contact with people over at Kenworth, Australia, and they told me that they had built and delivered 2 C500s for this film. So at least now we know that this rig has a double, and most likely one of them will be used for stunts. The next one that was spotted in the same place is this tanker truck. It seems to be a military spec 6x6 Mack. I'm guessing it's RM6866 RS with a custom built tanker. And it comes with its own trailer that's loaded up with 68 55-gallon oil drums. And one thing to notice is that wheels on both the trailer and the truck are protected with saw blades, which is definitely some wasteland ingenuity right there. Also, the truck does not look damaged or modified to hell like in Fury Road, which again is a testament to the prequel nature of this film. Meanwhile, in the front, you'll see that it's got 2 gunner seats mounted on the fenders, and the prop weapons were probably removed for transport. And you can also see that the truck has Immortan Joe's logo, so it most definitely belongs to the Citadel. Also, in this picture, you'll see that it's got the trademark Mack dog on the bonnet, but on the other ones, it doesn't. And that's because some thought it would be a good idea to steal it. We also got a new picture of the Maple Leaf tow truck, at least I assume that's what it is. I mean, we cannot be sure until we actually see the front, but in the back of the trailer, there seems to be some kind of a buggy, and there's really not a whole lot more you can say about that one. It's all covered up. But there's also one more vehicle that's all covered up, and I can actually tell you a little bit more about that one. This is a vehicle that I spotted a while back in some early pictures, but I just could not quite put my finger on it because it looked really strange and the image was really blurry. But thanks to D Viper from madmaxcars.com, we got a bit more info on this weird looking thing. It is apparently a secret vehicle that is a Kombi van that has a special part in the film. Looking at the shape of the car and the blurry pictures, I think we might be looking at a Volkswagen van that's got another van attached to it as a trailer, looking something like this. But then again, this is only my guess, and Inside Info actually mentions that this was the only vehicle that was spotted and was completely covered up. So I think it must be playing a special role in the film, whatever that role might be. And last but not least, look, this is going to be a bit of a stretch, but somebody claiming to be working on the film left a very interesting comment on my last update video. And just to be clear, it's not the first time somebody from the production of those films leaves a comment. In fact, I'm pretty sure people working on Furiosa are watching us right now, so we might as well just say hi to them. But that particular comment was really specific, and it mentioned something really interesting that I think might be true. The poster claims that there's going to be a motorcycle chariot in this film, looking like this, except with 3 bikes instead of 4 or 2. Now you might be thinking, no, there's no way that this is real. But no, motorcycle chariot racing was a real thing that was started in Australia in 1920s after the release of Ben-Hur, which is a movie that inspired the chase scenes in Mad Max 2. So I'm thinking that might be a reason alone for George Miller to put that thing in a film. And of course, there's the 2015 Mad Max game that reveals a few things from the upcoming film. And one of them is a vehicle called the Demented Chariot that belonged to one of the pivotal characters from Furiosa. I mean, ultimately, it's all conjecture at this point, but if it's proven true, it could be pretty spectacular to see a motorcycle chariot just plowing through the wasteland in Furiosa. And that's all I have for you today. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I release new videos, and rest assured they're not all gonna be about Furiosa. You know what, actually let me know what kind of stuff you'd like to see. So, if you enjoy what you're watching, just leave a like and a comment, and if you want to support what I do, then I do have a Patreon, and the link is down in the description. And that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay shiny and chrome.